Kenny, as we look down on Surfers Paradise from our chopper here, you can see the cars winding their way around now. That's Jimmy Richards in the red and black car number 1, the SVO Ford, leading them around the strip of sand, the famous strip of sand. So many people from all parts of the world and Australia have spent hours getting a suntan there and dipping in the beautiful Pacific Ocean. And here's the field coming around for it. It's a good lineup there. You can see that Castrol car number 8 of Brad Jones. He had a dreadful time during qualifying yesterday. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and he's pretty well back in the pack. So that'll be an interesting one from the start line here. Rolling start. Let's have a look now as they line up. Jimmy Richards on pole, and Gary Rogers was third placed here last year. Mark Seaton, Bruce Williams. We'll be talking to Bruce Williams through or via Peter Brock, who's in our commentary box with us, Brad Jones and Mbrewer. And we've got Harrington, Badecki, Faulkner, who won here last year, back in the pack this time round, Fordham, Fitzgerald and Monday. So they're getting ready for the rolling start. And also joining us today, Gerald McDormand, and out of Melbourne. Gerald, you have a lot to do with the AUSCARs and NASCARs around the Call the Thunderdome. It's nice to have you as part of the Wide World of Sports team here.
Thanks very much, Daryl. And of course, today's race is for championship points and the 1992-93 AUSCAR Series.
Yeah, well, this is round 5 of the AUSCAR Championship. Brad Jones currently leading that series on 515 points from John Faulkner with 495, Bruce Williams on 480, Terry Wyhoon on 465, and Marshall Brewer on 424. So that's after 4 rounds. This is round 5 of the AUSCAR Championship. Now, these cars, Peter, really were developed after the success of NASCARs introduced to Australia. We decided to put a local product out.
Yeah, basically as a nursery formula that I guess Bob Jane figured would be the right way of getting people into it, and it's been an absolutely smashing success.
Well, it's a rolling start. It's a start that we're not really used to in Australia. Most of our races come off a stationary grid, 15 laps, 495 kilometres around. The race distance 67.425 kilometres. That's a fair race for these cars around here under these conditions with so many concrete walls to dodge. 15 laps.
Be an absolute miracle if we can do 15 laps without seeing a yellow flag or a pace car, and because of the chicanes, it's very hard on brakes. All the drivers are talking about the difficulty. There's the pace car pulling off. We're ready for a start.
Ready for a start. Jimmy Richards in the red-coloured car. Gary Rogers with the white Valvoline car. Power goes down just about to start. 15 laps of AUSCAR action. Over the stripe they go now. Jimmy Richards with a blitzing start. Watch him go into the first chicane. That's where it's all going to happen. Power going up, revs building up, but Jimmy Richards really got a great start. Through they come now. Richards through. Rogers is through. Car 23, which is Mark Seaton, will go through the cars for you. Bruce Williams and Brad Jones. Brad Jones needs to do a lot of work early here to get in touch with Richards. But Jimmy Richards will drive anything at any time.
And these cars, you can see that Richo seemed to take that very steadily and just kept that field slowed down for that safety, that first chicane. It's always, a big problem to get through there unscathed, and thus far looking pretty good.
The guys so far are all in order, and the top 5 positions haven't changed. So lap 1 of 15.
Jimmy Richards in the SVO Ford. Gary Rogers in the EV Ford, sitting in second. Mark Seaton in an EA Ford. Bruce Williams and Brad Jones in the Commodores. Now, Brad Jones is the king of the class around Calder, but he's had rotten luck every time he's put one of these things on a street circuit.
Yes, Bradley reckons it. He just doesn't know what it is, but he gets to surface and all these little plans just go away. He hasn't had a good handling package. It hasn't stopped well. And just talking to our other hot Commodore competitor, Bruce Williams, he had a problem running the entire practice session and qualifying on 7 cylinders because of a broken rocker arm. So expect to see the Holdens get out there and really push those Fords.
The top 10 qualifying positions were evenly split between the Fords and the Commodores, so it's going to be a very interesting race today.
Jimmy Richards.
And already we have Bruce Williams making a move, but unable to get through, but certainly making a move down that straight.
And Brad Jones coming through. Watch them bounce the wheels on the ripple strips here. Plenty of action from the AUSCARs as the high-speed snake comes through the chicane area. Always a problem here. Brakes are going to be the big problem on these cars. After 15 laps, I reckon around lap 10, they're going to be running out of plenty of brakes as they wind their way around the Breaker Avenue, which will bring them back on the straight.
And still we see the cars snaking around amongst the high rises, and there's a passing manoeuvre as we see one of our cars, 2 or 3 cars coming through there. Very, very tight back in that particular area. We'll pick up the spots for you as they come into the straight.
Gary Rogers in the EB Ford making some ground up now on Jimmy Richards. Jimmy Richards, beautifully prepared car.
Bruce Williams up to 3rd in the Holden, so Bruce will be certainly going for it to try and close that gap.
Bruce Williams in car number 9. He's the improver, and Rogers now comes up in behind Jimmy Richards through the chicane. Big lock up there from Williams. Cocks it up over the ripple strip. Lost a lot of ground in that manoeuvre.
Very, very untidy from Bruce. Probably a little bit over-exuberant, but hung on. It's a matter of now, will he have flat-spotted front tyres? They look to take a lot of punishment.
Bruce Williams really got away with that one. Stevie Harrington making a move up into the field as well, and he's starting to put some pressure on Brad Jones.
Jimmy Richards and Gary Rogers leading it from the front at the moment. Richards, very cautious off the line, got the power down nicely though, made sure he got through that first chicane area. Gary Rogers, I mentioned, 3rd here last year, closing in and snapping at the heels of the SVO Ford. And of course, Gary Rogers driving the EB Ford. So we're back to Ford and Holden, and the punters love it.
They do, and Gary Rogers doing an exceptionally good job there, hanging on to Jimmy Richards. You can see the shimmering Commodore of Bruce Williams in the background there, followed by the other Falcon of Mark Seaton. Very, very close stuff.
So Gary Rogers does a lot of development work at Calder Park Thunderdome, a lot of experience on road circuits as well. He is pressuring Jim Richards, and Bruce Williams appears to be making up ground up the back straight.
Well, you're right, Gerald. He's made up a lot of ground, because when he had that real big lock up there, he dropped way off the place. We'll have a talk to him next time round. We get Peter to have a talk to Bruce Williams in the car. But right now we're looking down from the chopper. Beautiful circuit this. Gee, it's a pretty racetrack. You can see it coming in and out of the shadows of the high-rise buildings as both cars do a real nice job of winding their way through this part of the circuit. It's a pretty tricky part of the track. You can make up a lot of ground as Rogers closes up on brakes.
I have to say that Gary Rogers is probably using the brakes a little more than Richo, just from this perspective. A bit hard to tell, but still doing an excellent job.
The big problem, of course, is that guys were coming into the pits during practice with boiling brake fluid, so it is going to be a big factor when we get to around about lap number 10.
Jimmy Richards getting the better run out of there, though, and makes a nice bit of ground on Gary Rogers as they blast their way down the main straight. Well, let's have a talk to Bruce Williams.
Bruce Williams, Peter Brock, can you hear me? Things going according to plan?
Yeah, pretty good at the moment. I've got a bit of a front brake lock-up problem.
I was waiting for you to go through the chicane. Yes, we saw it, Bruce, but you haven't flat-spotted the tyres too badly?
No, pretty right.
Well, you're closing the gap on the boys in front. Good luck.
A pretty busy Bruce Williams there too, trying to talk to Peter Brock and handle the chicane. That's not a bad effort.
He did very, very well, as a matter of fact. I know what it's like when they talk to me in the car, and I didn't mean to talk to him through the chicane, but he handled it very well.
He sure did. So he is making up that distance he lost. Brad Jones still back in behind.
It's one of those situations here where it's okay to catch, it's another to pass, and that's what the drivers are finding here. It's narrow, it's twisty.
Setting him behind Mark Seaton. He doesn't seem to be able to make any ground. Well, on the streets of Surfers Paradise, a real street fight taking place. Stay with us, Australia, back shortly here on Nine's Wide World of Sports. Nice to have your company wherever you're watching us right around Australia. These are the AUSCARs around the streets of Surfers Paradise. 4 of 15 gone. Richards, Rogers, Williams, Seaton, Jones and Faulkner, they're the top runners for you as the V8 sing their song here at Surfers Paradise. Oh, it's a great sound.
And one of the fans of Australia have come to love this traditional battle. Falcon up front there, 1-2. Bruce Williams closing a gap, or perhaps a little bit stationary at the moment. They're all wondering about braking performance. We all believe that Jimmy Richards is driving his car in position number 1 there very carefully. You can see Rogers using the brakes up in these areas to close the gap. Now, we think with this amount of race done that Rogers might be in trouble a little later on.
Thing I've noticed that Jimmy Richards stretches his lead down the straight, but Rogers comes up very hard on the brake, so he's working them.
He certainly is working them, and I think he will be in trouble later on. But when there's $100,000 in prize money up for grabs, I think you've really got to apply the pressure.
Round 5 of the championship, Jimmy Richards. I tell you what, he'd drive a nail well in a piece of wood, this fella.
He would, and he loves it. He just loves getting out there and just wheeling the car around. And of course, Gary Rogers is thinking to himself, okay, I mightn't have too many brakes left, but Jimmy Richards has. And of course, he's got a pretty strong rear bumper bar, and well, anything can happen in this form of motor racing.
Jimmy Richards, of course, driving both, as a number of drivers are here, driving both AUSCARs and NASCARs over the weekend. It's a very busy program.
It certainly is for Jim Richards. He's driving for Dick Midgley in the Valvoline car in NASCAR. But here, Mick Webb, we see...
Lock up into the chicane. Over into the rough stuff and just loosens up the spoiler a bit, pulls off the racing line and allows the field to come through. That's going to be a problem area as this race goes on. Gerald.
You're really starting to see the effects of the hard braking right now, even though these cars have got water cooling, and I think it's starting to take a major effect.
Well, just looking at that particular part of the racetrack, Jimmy Richards seems to have stretched a little, and perhaps those, the lack of finesse that probably, I don't mean that in a derogatory matter, that Gary's been using with the car, using the brakes up, is taking its toll. Interesting to see if Bruce Williams here has got the right brake sponsor. He's got brake problems. Well, everyone has.
Well, Bruce Williams and Mark Seaton in 23, the blue car sitting behind car 9 here. Bruce Williams, they've had a pretty good scrap. Williams got the better of him just before that break, and he's opened up a little bit of a buffer up now. Puffs of smoke coming out from Williams's car. We might talk to you again, Pete.
Bruce Williams, can you hear me? Car running well?
Can't quite hear you, Pete.
How's the brake? How are your brakes holding up, Bruce? Okay, mate, hang in there.
Just trying to nurse them along a little bit at the moment.
Okay, we thought maybe you were.
There's the hard chart running here on 9 Sports. Now, the idea of this, of course, is to measure the difference of the heart rate during a race. Now, the stresses that do apply, and you'll see them jump around quite a bit as he almost went to the wall. Let's see if that had anything to do with it. We know the normal rate of your heart, it really jumps around. We put it on Larry Perkins, it was quite amazing.
Yes, well, normally it's static. You'd expect it to be around about 50 to 60 or something like that for a young, fit guy like Bruce. But the one thing that you may be able to pick up here is that as the driver comes up to an area and he's apprehensive about his braking performance, you'll notice as they come into a braking area, the actual heartbeat goes up. But as the car slows, as he knows he's going to get around the corner, it actually momentarily drops down again. I had this sort of experiment run on me some years ago, but whether it's accurate enough to pick it up here right now remains to be seen.
Yeah, wonderful exercise. That just shows you the stresses of racing under these conditions, surrounded by concrete walls, cars trying to get round you. You're running out of brakes, so there's plenty to think about when you're driving one of these, and it's all about pacing yourself over the distance.
It certainly is, and it appeared as though Jim Richards was starting to get out on Gary Rogers. It's lap 6 of 15. And Bruce Williams, nice line through the chicane.
The thing with Jimmy Richards is he's so good with machinery, isn't he, Peter? I mean, there's not a better driver out there that's going to nurse a car better than Jimmy Richards.
Yeah, Richo's a thinker. He gets a feel for it. He caresses the thing around the track, and you know, he just knows exactly what is going to be hard on a motor car. He knows if he's squeezing the brake pedal too much. He knows if he's trying to pull it back down through the gears a little bit too difficult on the transmission, on that reverse overrun sort of effect you get. And you can see that he's not hanging the tail out. He's coming out of the corners very smoothly. And, of course, that's the quick way. And Richo's, he's a pro.
I'd like to say this, too. You know, the netting, the webbing you see on Richards' driver's window area there, it has been discussed that would be a good thing to put back on touring cars. Now, you pioneered this in Group A a lot of years ago now.
Yes, I had that in the car back in the late 70s, actually, and I thought it was a good thing. I think we stopped using it because of the hand signal situation of coming in and out of pits, but nowadays we turn the blinkers on, and I suppose we can always get our hand through that part of the net pretty easily if we have to, and there's no doubt it is extremely difficult to keep your arms intact if you're in that rollover situation.
Of course, the window net is a mandatory requirement by AUSCAR and NASCAR. There is another way that you can contain a driver's arms within the car, and that is arm restraints.
Yes, of course. One of the great fears, I think, of motor racing is fire, and drivers, of course, love to be able to get out of those cars very quickly indeed. So the net is a good idea, and certainly a safety harness that unclips very quickly is also a mandatory requirement.
Jimmy Richards leading the way round here for the AUSCARs. I must confess I'm surprised that the field has strung out the way they have. Normally up here it's a real battle round the streets, and it's a pretty bunch race, but Richo just did it well from the word go. Gary Rogers stayed in touch. Williams is doing a pretty good job because he's kept Seaton at bay, and he is starting to close in on Gary Rogers.
See, he's no longer driving on a protective line to block out Seaton. He knows he can take the perfect racing line, and he's looking pretty good. So right now, Gary Rogers will be starting to feel the pinch. He'll be going, hang on, it's Bruce. Bruce, he's closing up. He's come through that chicane faster, and right now he'll be attacking him.
I really think Bruce Williams just might have him. Jimmy Richards come around Conrad Jupiter's corner there, Brocky.
And there we go. We've seen a passing manoeuvre there, just down the inside there on the brakes. Bruce Williams absolutely stood on the brakes at one lap. Gary Rogers obviously in braking problems. You can see the way he almost slipped into the back of Bruce Williams again there. And right now, I'd have to say that if I was Gary Rogers, I'd be laying off the car a little. I'd be taking it easy. I'd let it all come back to normal running conditions and try and salvage something from the race.
Well, Rogers will soon be attacked by Seaton the way things are going. Nice driving there from Williams. Just took advantage of that corner, got down into the braking area and just picked the spot. So he's back up into second. Now under attack again, Rogers. He may have a problem because Seaton really, he's blowing him off too. So I'd say Rogers definitely got a problem.
Rogers definitely has a major problem. Seaton passed him without any troubles at all, and has now gone off in hot pursuit of Bruce Williams.
Well, just having a quick assessment of the situation there, I looked at Gary Rogers coming into that braking area, and he definitely seemed to be squeezing the brakes on. Didn't seem to be prepared to stand on the brakes, and as we've been predicting all along in this class of racing at this track, this will be a major contributor to the outcome of this event.
Bruce Williams, the big improver in car 9, 3 seconds now behind Richards. Can he catch him? We'll all know shortly. Stay with us. 9 of 15, Richard Williams, Seaton, Rogers, Harrington and Jones. They're the top runners for you as you look down on the high-rise buildings here at Surfers Paradise, the wonderful waterways. It is a gorgeous part of the world. The 93 IndyCar Grand Prix live here out of the Gold Coast, and what a sight. Big crowd building up all areas of the circuit. This last couple of days have been very well supported. A massive crowd expected tomorrow, and you're looking down at Jimmy Richards as he makes his way down the start-finish lane and past our commentary box.
And certainly Richo hanging onto a nice little comfortable cushion to Bruce Williams. So we've got Falcon, Holden, Falcon in the first 4 spots. Richards looking neat, looking accurate, certainly has looked after his motor car, and be interesting to see now if Bruce Williams can make a charge.
Car 23 is Mark Seaton. That's an EA Ford. Of course, Gary Rogers is in the EV Ford, and Jim Richards is in the SVO Ford. So 3 variations on the theme.
Mark Seaton appeared out of nowhere at Calder Park Thunderdome and immediately set the place alight with an XF Falcon. Did very well. Bruce Williams currently in second position, the EV1 Channel 9 car.
Well, I'd like to have a talk with Bruce Williams as we come down the back straight. Bruce Williams, can you hear me? Bruce, can you hear commentary? Now, you're going to go for it, Bruce. You're looking, you've got him in the sights, you're going to really go for it now.
I'm going for it, Peter. I think Jim's got brake problems at the moment because I can pick him up in the tight parts of the track. He's got no more power.
Okay, mate, we'll leave you there. Go for it, mate. You're closing the gap and looking good.
Thanks, mate.
Bruce Williams thinking Jimmy Richards has got some brake problems. Not too sure about that because Richards hasn't had a lot of pressure on him, but Williams certainly having a go. What about the sound of the V8s? What about that?
Well, when you cross over like that, I mean, it's very difficult to hear the guys, but it's what a beautiful musical sound they do make. No wonder the fans love them.
It certainly is. It's what everybody wants and expects. And Bruce Williams very close to the wall that time. Richo locks the wheel up, a little bit of a drift out of that corner, and it does appear that Bruce Williams is starting to gain.
No doubt about that. Maybe we've misread. Maybe Bruce Williams is seeing things that we can't see. Richards might have a slight problem with brakes. We did predict with about 5 to go they'd all run into a hole.
Well, look, I can tell you from a racer's point of view, and any racer will tell you this, when you see that car in front, it's like a magnet. It's amazing. You draw that speed out from somewhere and you close the gap. And that's what Bruce Williams now has got the contact with Richo and looking good.
Richards now making his way down the Gold Coast Highway. Comes into the chicane area. Williams is going to leave his braking as late as he can. Now he goes through. You can see all the infield there chopped up with a number of cars that have gone across there. Marshall's doing a great job keeping the track nice and clean. A lot of racing over the 2 days here at Surfers Paradise. And bangs the wheels over Bruce. He is having a go.
He is having a go. I think if I was him, I'd be trying to keep it more neater, more accurate. Take a leaf out of Richo's book from that point of view, but you know, you've got to hand it to him. There he is. He's got Jimmy Richards in front and he's closing.
The big thing as well is that the championship points are up for grabs. Now, he's currently 35 points behind Brad Jones, sitting in 3rd position he is. Now, there is 5 points awarded.
Whoa! Hit the wall. Bruce Williams is trying. I'm sorry, Gerald, but he really smacked it pretty hard that time round. Really going for broke and really gave it a clout.
He certainly did.
Bruce, any problems with the car?
Knocked the wheel along and there's oil on the track back there.
Okay, your front spoiler looks all right. Your mudguard might be close. Keep an eye on it.
There's a replay there of him smacking the wall pretty hard. Bruce has told us the wheels are out of alignment, so he can just soldier on now. Do you think that spoiler will stay there?
Well, if it's anything like the racing we've been having the last few weeks, it'll just disintegrate and it'll run up the track somewhere. Alan Jones could probably tell you more about that sort of activity than I could, but there's the heartbeat up to 181, and I'd love to know what it was. He went into that wall, but she would have cracked 200, I reckon.
Well, 191, back to 178. Remember, he was around about 170 before and jumped up to 191. So the old tick is doing its thing. It's going like the V8.
As I was saying before as well, the championship points are up for grabs now. He's about 4 positions in front of Brad Jones. That will give him a bonus 20 points. If he can get past Richo, it's 25 points. So the big prizes are up for stakes. On
lap 11 now, certainly closing the gap. He smacked the wall. He's got a problem with the alignment of the car. The body works loose. Oh, Jesus, a brave effort.
Bruce Williams, Peter Brock here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Peter.
Your right-hand front mudguard is okay. I repeat, it's okay. It's not hitting your tyre, in case you're concerned.
Thanks, mate.
That might have been the case about 3 seconds ago. And good change. What about this? This is incredible. Peter Brock telling him the car's okay from the commentary box. Just press on. Nothing's rubbing, and with that he goes bang straight on the rebel strip.
I tell you what, there might be a problem. There's a small tube dangling at the front of the car, and I would wonder if that tube is a part of his water system for the brakes.
I've got no doubt about it that there's something like that going on, but at the moment he can't afford to be concerned at all. Just press on, don't make any more errors. There's Richo. There's not much in it. There's probably about 2 seconds and I'm looking at the track, and very much an achievable situation.
Okay, so we're coming down with just a couple of laps to go. You'll see the closing stages. Stay with us, Australia. This is a good race. 13 of 15 down now. Jimmy Richards still out in front from Williams, from Seaton Harrington. A real big improve from him over Brad Jones, and Rogers now really having that problem we saw early after running second, his way back down the pack.
Oil flag being displayed there. Jimmy Richards, though, very, very careful, and barring mistakes, should hang on here. We've got Bruce Williams who's shadowing him. Seeing Bruce come into view there, but I suspect Bruce is backing off very early. That looks a little bit shaky in the brake department to me.
Well, there's still a chance, though, that the rest of the field coming through here could really give him a bit of a problem, Bruce Williams, because if he has got a problem, they're starting to make some distance.
Now, Bruce getting a bit untidy there. Whether he's feeling a bit tired or the car's a little bit shaky, hard to say, but you know, if he's going to catch Jim, he's got to be really knuckled down to it, and it's very achievable if he really does knuckle down to it with 2 laps to go.
Pete, where can he make up the difference here? We're talking a couple of seconds, which is a long time in motor racing. So where should we look that Bruce should be trying to make the gaps up?
For a start, you've got to go through these chicanes and throw a caution to the wind. He'd have to go through them absolutely as fast as he could. Exit of those corners is so important. And then he's got to stop at the end of each straight into those chicanes at the last possible moment. At the moment, Jim's driving conservatively, and we believe he is. There's a lot to be gained in this braking area, for instance, that he's coming into now.
I think Stevie Harrington got more caught up in the traffic earlier when he had a chance of catching Jim, but it appeared as though Richards got by on the straight, and Bruce Williams, of course, unfortunately had to go through the traffic through the S's.
Well, Bruce is now being shadowed again by, or closely followed by Seaton, so it's obvious that, you know, he's a little bit off the pace from what he was earlier.
Well, the car's looking a little worse for wear. It certainly had a couple of little scrapes. He's hit the wall and been very, very hard on the curbs.
But he's done the Holden fans proud, really. He's been, at least he's kept Richards in sight. And we've had, I think the Falcon's been the superior motor car here this weekend. It's first and third at the moment, first, third, and I think fourth at the moment. So, you know, Bruce Williams really is, I think, put in a very, very good drive.
Jimmy Richards now back onto the Gold Coast Highway after he negotiates this particular corner, and that should take him onto the last lap. So Jimmy Richards a winner. Doesn't matter what he drives, he does it well. Well, car 8, which is Brad Jones, is closing in on Mark Seaton in car 23 on the last lap, lap 15. So that could be an interesting little struggle as they make their final way round this circuit. Brad Jones in the Castrol car.
Bradley Jones there now coming down the straight. We'll see if we can stay with Bradley and have a look at him, because he hasn't gone nearly as well as we would expect. He's an extremely talented driver, and he's probably around about, I guess, 10 seconds or so behind Richards at the moment. But
so Jim Richards now heading down the main straight. Brad Jones got past Steve Harrington. That won't do Williams' title aspirations much good, but it appears as though he's going to settle in for second.
Well, Williams about, I guess, about 2.6 odd seconds behind Richards, just looking on the road, and Seaton certainly not too far behind, but this is the last lap.
Well, Gerald, the AUSCARs are around about 10 seconds a lap slower than the NASCARs, because that action to come yet, that'll be spectacular, but they're still pretty quick.
They certainly are very, very quick, and they've been lapping here in 2 minutes 15 seconds around the circuit at Calder Park Thunderdome. They average around about 125 miles per hour per lap, so they are a very, very fast car.
What sort of top speeds here on the two main straights?
Well, you're looking, speeds are around about 135, 140, maybe 150 miles per hour up the straight.
And it's a pretty economical way to go motor racing.
An excellent introduction for young people to get into the sport, and certainly it's there's a lot there to be had for the more experienced campaigners too. But we can see Bruce Williams here closing a gap again on Richards, but I'm sure Richard knows he's there, but can he do anything about it?
Well, they're negotiating the last set of twisty bits before they get onto the Gold Coast Highway, but you've got to give credit to Jimmy Richards. Whatever he gets, and he drives so well, but Bruce Williams has done a great job. It's been a courageous drive from him. After all the little hits and smacks he's had, he's certainly driven his heart out to stay in touch with the great Jimmy Richards. This fellow is the ultimate pro. He just loves to drive race cars, and he does it so well. Winds his way down now. He'll win this AUSCAR 15 lapper here at Surfers Paradise. They'll do another 5 laps tomorrow. Jimmy Richards takes the flag. Bruce Williams closed right up. Good job there. In third place was Seaton, Jones, Harrington and Rogers. That's how they finish as the cars come around now. Well, of course, we've got lots and lots of action coming your way. The NASCARs are yet to come out. Of course, the IndyCar race, the big one tomorrow. These boys will be back in action tomorrow with another 5 lapper. So there's plenty to watch for the next day and a half here on Nine's Wide World of Sport. You could say it's a huge weekend at Surfers Paradise, and there's a lot more action to come.